Special guest today. We have former UFC fighter, American entrepreneur, Ryan LaFlare.
Woo! One and only.
I was waiting.
Welcome to the show, Ryan.
I'm happy to be here.
So yeah, there's so many things that you have to offer a podcast.
Raspy voice, lisp.
I feel like your voice is always raspy. But it's like
right now it's worse. Yeah, right now it's worse.
So like when I think of you, I think like UFC fighter, but that's like the last thing I think of.
Yeah, that's like a fraction of my life.
It's like a small part of it. And you're like have like a storied career.
Yeah.
Top 10 UFC fighter, main event fighter.
Mm-hmm. And you just
amazing
recently
career.
retired.
Yeah, but I think of that
4 years now almost.
Yeah, that's wild.
I know. It feels
well,
like
COVID counts as like 6 months.
COVID is like 2 years, and it almost like
it's just one.
Put like a freeze on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was thinking about like, the intro for you, but as a UFC fighter is like such a small thing.
No,
like
really
like how many
100%.
different businesses have you had? You're owner of Long Island MMA, two different gyms, Kava places.
So a lot of people don't know this. I was the owner of a company called KTFO.
I remember
from
that.
like 2006 to 2000.
I didn't know that.
I probably got rid of it in 2011. I just ended up walking away from it because it was like nothing. There was like nothing to offer there.
But KTFO was knocked the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this was back in like the
I
tap
remember
out.
seeing that for sure.
I remember
that was one of the biggest companies.
I mean, I was friends with you back then, but I didn't really see you very often. I was living in Colorado and I knew that you owned that. And then I was watching a UFC fight and Chuck Liddell walked out with the KTF. I was like, what the fuck?
We had everybody.
And you had the biggest fighters in the world.
Everybody. Matt Hughes, Liddell, Rich Franklin, Forrest Griffin at the time. I mean, literally, you name them, we sponsored them. Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah.
Yeah, KTFO. And
that was your first big company?
Yeah, our logo was shitty. It was like a freaking,
With the good like acronym.
Yeah, KTFO. Knocked the fuck out.
Right.
But like, obviously that, if someone came up with that company now, it wouldn't even last because the sport's so mainstream. But at the time, that was like, it was like us, full contact fighter and tap out. We were like the
Affliction.
It was before Affliction. Affliction started coming around, and then like that's when I started backing off. Because all of our t-shirts were like KTFO, and it was like a will over skill. I had like some kind of stupid freaking
right.
But that was like the trend at the time.
Tap or snap, you know what I mean? Or like don't be a pussy.
And that was like you were into fighting, but you were not actually fighting yet, though.
Yeah, I was training. I was definitely training. So like 2004, 2005 is when we started that, and we were sponsoring it. I was working for CompuStrike. One of my 19 jobs that I had, I was working for CompuStrike doing like punch counts. So I was going to all like these, the Strike Force, the Bellator, and all, everything but the UFC. We were doing the punch counts. And so like MMA was always a part of my life since like 2004 or so. But that, all of my time was into like just like slinging t-shirts. And we,
how did you get these like Chuck Liddell, and how do you do that? Like
this
you
is like
reached out to
at
them?
the time, there was only a couple managers at the time. Caesar Gracie was one of our, was the guy that we, was like the guy that because he was managing like Jake and all them. And then Monty Cox was like a
Monty
big
Cox,
manager.
I remember him. He was out of Minnesota.
Yeah. He was a big manager. And like, so like we just got hooked up with those managers, and like we would sponsor guys like $3,000, $5,000. I think we paid like Chuck Liddell like $10,000.
Really?
And that was like the most, and he was like the UFC champion. There was it wasn't a real sport. I mean, it was real, but it wasn't like.
But he walked out in that shirt. It wasn't like on his banner.
So towards the end, it started like,
getting more expensive.
And then my partner at the time was like, he was kind of tough to deal with. He couldn't, because all the fighters would try to fuck us over. We got a bad, if you looked it up, I walked away because it had such a bad rap because no one liked us. Of course. He wasn't paying, he would look for reasons not to pay
of
people.
Course.
So.
And you were 50-50 partner with him?
Yeah. But I mean, we were 50-50, but like I was spending the money and I was
Did you make money on that business?
Yeah. In the beginning, I was making a shitload.
Right. Then you had to start paying the big fighters.
I'll tell you what made us the most money was setting up, going to these events and selling T-shirts at these events. I'd make $15,000 at one of those events.
Really?
Wow, that much.
But then, like when you sponsor fighters, a lot of it had to go.
Yeah, it would go back on our website. We were crushing it on our website for a while. But then what happened is, I don't know if you know the underground forum. That's like, I don't know.
Of course, it's still on. It's still going on.
Was like, my partner at the time was just like talking shit to everybody on these on this forum. So what happened was like we would like, I think Jay I don't remember the exact story with Jason Mayhem Miller. We sponsored him, and he knew that he wasn't going to fight, and he asked for an advance on the sponsor, and he took the money and then pulled out of the fight and blah blah blah. And then like
it's hard to track that stuff down then. Back
my
then,
partner at the time was like,
well, he was with Brian Parsons, right?
No, it was way before
Brian,
that. Yeah, way before Brian Parsons. This is like when he was fighting in some like Hawaiian
with the Rock, Rumble on the Rock.
Yeah, Rumble on the Rock, some weird for Hawaiian thing, and we were giving him like it was like $3,000, but he asked for the advance, and then my partner went on the freaking forum and was like, "Yeah, I fucked your girlfriend." And then the guy was like, and then everyone teamed up with Mayhem Miller, and then like made us look like fucking. And people were like, "Yo, you're supposed to be a CEO of this big company. Like you're talking about like you're getting." Because
they envision the company as like Nike.
Yeah,
with really
at the
it's
time. Meanwhile,
like
I was like a 21-year-old kid, and fucking, and this other guy, and then what would happen is like we would sponsor people, and like They would wear our hat out there, but then they would put somebody else's hat on the way back. They were just like trying to find ways to fuck me over.
Well, they're just trying to make more money. There wasn't enough money.
Exactly. And in the beginning, when we first got into it, it's like KTFO from head to toe for like $1,500.
Wow.
And then it was like a patch here for $1,000, and like no one's buying a KTFO shirt because they saw a freaking patch.
They don't even see the patch. Yeah.
It was like, and then it ended up like biting us in the ass, and then like our overhead started becoming more than like what we were bringing in, and then we were just spending more than we had. I put a Corvette on the company. We put a Range Rover on the company. It was like, it was like almost fake.
Right.
And then we opened the gym. I had no idea what I was doing. I was training. I was definitely good at it. I was fucking people
up.
But
you didn't have a pro fight yet though.
No pro fight.
Right.
Just like these like underground things. Like the whole thing that like Frankie Edgar was doing.
Yeah, I remember those.
It was called like the Underground Combat League. So I was doing that, but I didn't know.
It was in like Queens, right?
Yeah, Queens, Bronx, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Storm and who else was it? But Peter Storm was the guy who was running the show, and I was just doing that. I didn't know anything. I just like was a street fighter and just fucking fighting people.
I remember you had a mohawk.
Yeah, it was a lunatic. Yeah.
So, but then when you get into after a couple of those, then you get into Ring of Combat.
Yeah, well, I got introduced to Anthony D'Angelo, who he introduced me to Keith Trimble, and because there was only two gyms on Long Island at the time, it was Keith Trimble or Sarah's gym, and Anthony D'Angelo introduced me to Keith Trimble, and I had no striking at all. Like my striking was just sparring at KTFO and just like biting down and
crazy.
Going.
Oh, so your first gym was called KTFO? Yeah, KTFO. It wasn't Long Island MMA.
No, KTFO. Okay. And then and we had the shittiest. I mean, I was the head coach. I didn't know anything.
Nothing. Just high school wrestling.
Nothing. High school wrestling. I mean, I know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but like it was like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from the thugs from Lindenhurst who would like use the Jiu-Jitsu to fuck people
twisting your ankle.
Yeah, like to like put your freaking your knee in the guy's neck. Like that's like those are the submissions.
Right.
I still use those, but and then I got introduced to Keith, and then I still didn't really have a grappling gym, and then once I met Keith, I had at least had a path. I had someone directing me to do what I wanted to do. So and then it was a history from there.
Yeah. So then when you get into Ring of Combat, it was so crazy because like of how popular you were there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You think I would have been popular in the UFC.
That's what kind of something I want to talk about on the podcast is like when he was in Ring of Combat, I would go to these fights.
I like hear legendary stories of that.
Fly there. He's still the all-time ticket sales by like the second place is like not even half.
Because like when I like fought in the regional scene, like everyone's like, "Oh, you make money in ticket sales," and I was like,
no, he was legit making money.
I was like, I hope I just have to meet my. You have like
10,000 every time.
Yeah, like you'd have like a $500 ticket minimum, and I'm like, fuck. Well, my parents and my parents and like a couple of my friends will go, so I'll get that. But like I just met it just so I didn't have to pay it. I didn't make money off of ticket sales, and I had a decent amount of Like I had a group I had a crew there.
But like what you would have is like with normal fighters.
Yeah,
That's normal.
Yeah.
Ryan would have hundreds of people. The place would be
never less than
packed.
300 people.
But everyone would like come down and there'd be people partying. You'd be at the tables during the day and people would be partying and like hundreds of people celebrating him. And you were like such like a star there.
We were talking
but it's
about
just so, and you finished all your fights, but it's just so weird that
didn't translate. Yeah.
But you had just as much success in the UFC.
I know.
But like, why? What is that? We always talk about that with like
we watched
Caitlin's,
Cage Fury this weekend because I knew a couple of people and I was like, and we were both talking about it because I didn't know you guys at the time, but like I did the same thing, like the whole regional scene and going to AC for the fights and going with all your friends,
time.
And we were talking about it. We're like, that was such a fun time,
I would
so
love
much
to go
more
back
fun
there.
than the. I mean,
I would
obviously
love to go back
UFC,
there.
you're like it's cool because it's like the UFC and you're making more money, but like as far as like after the fights now, I'm like I don't care what we do, like nothing's like when you're like in AC and like all of your friends and family
and
are
then like
there.
you're also fighting on a card with like a couple of your other friends.
Yes.
Like me, Volante would always be on the same card. There's my buddy
Right.
Dom Stanko would be on this. Like we all fought on the same card.
And then their
too,
friends knew
and
you,
all
yeah.
of
But-
them
and all
linked
your
up.
friends would be there.
It was amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
So like we always talk about that, how certain people they'll just blow up instantly in the UFC. They're not good and they don't even seem like cool.
Yeah, I know.
But for whatever reason they blow up. Where like Caitlin, I mean I think Caitlin's so cool and everything and but obviously she's got what like 16 fights, but she's got like, you know, like 100,000 followers. Like it didn't blow up.
It's a lot more than AIDS.
But you know,
10 times more than
but you know what I mean though.
Yeah,
like
no, yeah,
that's
no,
not
100%. No, 100%. Yeah,
But,
I
like,
main
how do you
event-
explain
I was
that?
a main event on
literally
that's
a
good
main
question.
event.
I think my whole thing was
Why
like,
didn't
I was
your-
so afraid. I think a big thing about me fighting, and I debate this with myself all the time. A big thing with me fighting, I was so afraid to put myself out there.
Yeah,
because
that's
I
how
was
I am.
afraid that if I lost, I'd have to eat my words. Like I never. Like
I
was
definitely
always-
So you were like a
Yeah.
humble, like a college wrestler personality.
I always like was like, oh man, like just go out there and take care of my business. Like I never liked talking shit. And you don't get me wrong, like, and my personality is a pretty, you know, like.
It's like the most
could
like
see it,
dynamic personality of anyone I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was always like,
But
I
in
always,
fight,
like,
yeah.
and like I guess it was like the way I was raised, like yo, like you know,
Humble.
yeah, you know, don't be a fucking shit talker. Like, don't get me wrong, a shit talker and being able to fuck someone up is two totally different things.
Right.
Like, I never lost a street fight, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, it wasn't like because I had a big mouth on me. It was like, yeah, I just took care of business instead of fucking talking shit. I used to just scrap.
That's
And
kind of
it
I
never
feel the
caught
same
on,
way.
you know?
Like you don't want to put your. I always think that I'm like, oh, people are like you should talk a little bit more shit, and like even just like little comments, not like totally fake, but I'm like I feel like the second I do that, then like I'm gonna get like knocked out in like
it's
2
gonna
seconds,
calm
and I'm gonna be
down.
like, oh my god, I should have I changed it up.
Yeah.
You know what I think too, when you're.
But I think that you have to go all in. Like I'm going to be this if you want to be famous.
Yeah.
and I think
100%.
too, what's hard for us to do that and to kind of put on a little bit of an act is like. I don't really care at the end of the day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I always like, and I don't want to sound like ungrateful, but like it wasn't like I wasn't in the UFC like to become a millionaire. That wasn't my plan. Like I wanted to see how far I could take it. It wasn't like, oh, I can't. Like my plan wasn't like to be rich and famous. I mean, to be famous from being a UFC fighter.
Right.
My plan was like to try to become the champion, try to be the best I possibly could. So it was kind of like I didn't like.
You can't
getting
really
my name
commit
out
to
there
that.
Didn't matter. Like I was a main event after like 4 or 5.
Right.
You know. But I'll tell you what. After I got knocked out, like my mentality definitely changed. It was kind of like, all right, well, just fight to win. You know what I mean? It wasn't like. Because before that, I was like, oh, like whatever it takes to win. I don't care what. Like I'll rip my ear off. Literally, if I had to lose an ear to win, and that's what it took to win, I'm doing it. Like I still believe that. But then after getting knocked out, like, all right, well, just win, but don't get knocked out, you know?
Yeah.
And then you get like a little gun shy? Or,
I don't think so. If you
yeah?
watch my fights, my 2 fights after getting KO'd, I was definitely gunshot.
Well, I think
100%.
before it happens, you almost just think like, well, I don't know, never happened. So you, even though you see people that you train with, you see it happen in the gym. I think like, you know, if it's never happened to you, you kind of are like, oh, I don't know, like you can't really see. It doesn't feel
exactly.
real. Like it's a
100%.
real possibility.
Yeah, 100%.
There's another thing that like before you came in, I was, you know, just like looking at your record and stuff. And there's like a commonality between you guys is that like you don't finish people in the UFC. But then I looked, if you look at your names, every person that you ever fought in the UFC is a name person.
Oh, was ranked.
Is someone you've heard of.
Yeah.
Like you never had like someone who's he went 0-2 in the UFC. But a lot of people who get finishes start off with this guy's a bomb or he's on a 3-fight losing streak. But you had every person was
Except
a name.
My first fight in the UFC. The only
Ponzinibbio, no?
No, he was the
second fight. All right.
My first fight was this guy Benny Holloway. He's the only person that wasn't
I've heard of
ranked.
him though.
Yeah, but he was the only person that wasn't ranked at any point in his career.
Right.
Everybody else was ranked in the top 15 at some point in their career.
Right.
Every single person.
But like those people don't get finished.
I know.
You know what I mean? And it's the same with her.
Yeah.
And that's something that is very frustrating as someone
I don't
who like
even
really
think about it
follows
until
it.
people say it because I'm like, I just know that the people I fight are really good. I'm
They're
like,
really
well,
good.
you know, if I had one of these, like a girl that was 0-2 getting cut after I finish her.
You're finishing
like,
that. No problem.
Yeah. But I don't really care because I think it's cooler to like fight more like known people than to
Of
finish.
course,
But obviously that's not what the common fans think. But I think that.
I always thought that too. Like if you beat like a named person, like in a wrestling match, like I never got excited about beating like some scrub. But if someone's like, oh, he's a 2-time All-American and you beat him, like, damn, I beat a good guy.
100%, yeah, 100%.
But
no one cares how you beat him.
No one cares.
It could be 3-2.
That's double overtime stalling call.
Yeah, no one cares.
No one cares.
But I mean, essentially, that's all that matters too. Like, I mean, it doesn't because if you look at like, oh, this guy he beat so and so, but like if you beat a scrub and knock him out with like a freaking spinning hook kick, doesn't matter who that other guy is. He had the sickest knockout ever.
Right.
It's kind of fucked up. It's weird. I think like if I can,
and I don't think you know that till later.
Yeah, right.
You know, later on in your
career.
career.
Go back, like would I change things? Yes or no. But part of me goes, yeah, I could fight again. I think that like I don't put so much pressure on myself anymore. Like I think I could fight again. I still think I might.
Yeah.
Why not? Like I think I'm better now than I was when I was fighting.
Wow, do you think just like you're smarter too?
Yeah, I'm smarter. I think I learned so much. Like my striking game, like I could analyze the sport so much better. Like I know where I could where I excel. You know what I mean? I think I'll fucking kill somebody in a fight right now.
Well, it's because I mean you're a full-time coach now.
Yes, right.
I mean you run a gym.
I make the least
you teach
amount
privates
of my
all
money.
day long.
Yeah, I make the least amount of my money. Like out of like all of my incomes, I have like 10 different incomes. I make the least amount of it doing coaching, but it's the most amount of my time.
Most amount of your time. Yeah, you teach all day, every day. You're gonna get better.
Yeah, all day. And I don't even want to. I don't like I'll I usually book a lesson before my class and after my class. And then like somebody else, like, oh, I see you doing lessons. How much? Like, and then like now I'm doing.
But then, but it's not just regular lessons. You're also like one of Caitlin's main coaches.
That's what I mean.
And like Chris Wade's main coach. You have some elite fighters.
All the guys, and I actually enjoy. Like I enjoy training Caitlin. It's fun. You know what I mean? Like we kind of mess around and we can add stuff, take stuff, and like we'll watch the person she's like. We kind of figure some stuff out. That's why I like training some of these. Caitlin and Wade and like a couple of the up and coming guys. Like. We kind of
Well, it's more fun training like the good people.
Yeah, it's definitely good and they hit hard and that it makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
But training someone who's just walking in off the street is like.
It's terrible. Man. Yeah, I can't stand that.
It's funny because I kind of
$200.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah. And then they say okay, and you're like, fuck.
But you know what? And I go, well, what's it worth me to train this person? All right, well, $200. I guess it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I like accidentally started like working with both of you guys. I would say during COVID is when, because during COVID I took a fight and there was like no gyms, and I was like, Ryan, can I go to your gym? You're like, yeah, sure. So we like sneak in.
Yeah. Think of how many fights you've had since then.
Oh my god! I mean, that was my first
7 fights.
That was my first fight after the title.
Right.
And I remember I was like, okay, and then I was like,
loss was that fluke one.
The Andrade, yeah.
That was a fluke.
And
that's exactly what we expected.
Yeah. And then, I was like, all right. And then we started working together. And then because even before, I didn't even really work with Kyle that much. Like we had showed me stuff, but not like consistently. And like I feel like since then I kind of like leveled up. Like I think
so too.
You know what I mean? Just
so
just the adding like both of you, just like consistently doing wrestling with you, and then it was interesting because sometimes I would spar at your like I think that whole year I was sparring one day a week and you would watch sparring, and it was just getting like fresh eyes. And you have like we're both long. We have like kind of same style.
A lot of similarities.
Yeah, and then the biggest thing I think once like you start working with me off the wall.
Yeah.
And once I learned that, I think once
Yeah.
that one little thing, then I feel like then I got confidence, and then like I clicked for the rest of the stuff.
One thing I definitely noticed with you, and it's like almost what I say I noticed in myself, is that like you took the pressure off you. Like every time I talk to you, like, it's probably my last fight. Like you just don't care. And that's what I mean. Like you took the pressure, because watch your first fights. If you go back and watch your first like 4 fights, like you're like
on the bike the whole time.
You're like so like not stiff, but like rah, rah, like every
and just constant movement,
trying to kill the person. You put so much on yourself just to win, and now you're just kind of like,
yeah,
like, boom, and you're like relaxed, and you know you still scream a little bit, but it's like you're so much more of a relaxed fighter, like.
Yeah, I think like confidence too, and that also is like as the more you do it.
The best thing is like in your last fight, and I was kind of like, man, like it's a contract fight. I remember watching and being like, she could definitely, if she could just up me on her skates the last round, and like
I could beat her.
And
like
she's definitely gonna win,
much.
but it's not gonna help her. And I remember saying that, be like, I hope she doesn't do that. And all of a sudden, now your last round was your best round. Like you were like, come on, bring it here.
Yeah,
it was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it was fun to watch. You know,
that was cool. But yeah, that's something that I always think of you when I think of you as a coach. Like, you could be a jiu-jitsu coach, a wrestling coach, a striking coach.
Right.
You're
That's
a
so
legit
unusual.
MMA coach.
You're like a black belt across the board. You know what I mean?
A legit MMA coach. The cage stuff.
Like,
not a
that's
lot of people do that.
super unusual. Like most people are like, even the best coaches are like, well, he's a striking coach.
Right,
Like, he's, you know.
So, but now it's starting to become more like when
there's not a lot that are.
When I was coming up, there was no one like me. There was no one. But
I don't think there's a lot now.
No, I know. I'm just saying though. But now, like
Not
the generation,
high
because think about it, the generation before me. Like I never had a grappling coach, a striking coach, you know.
Right.
But now it's like at these big gyms, you got these guys that fought that are coaching at the gyms. You know what I'm saying? There's not the head coach though. They're like usually like
assistants.
They an assistant. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's where both of you guys helped me. I've always had the separate coaches, and I think both of you guys together have helped me like put it all together.
I think that's like one of my better things is like kind of meshing that.
And just because you fight doesn't mean you're good at that.
No,
like you're,
100%.
you know what I mean? Like you're
100%.
really good at coaching, but that's not just because you fought, you know.
Yeah. No, you're right. 100%. Yeah.
And I think you have like something in you too, like when you coach people, they just like listen to you type of thing. I don't know what it is, but like you know what I mean?
But I mean, I definitely know what I'm talking about too. So it's like, all right, well, you might as well listen to him. Like, you definitely know, you know what I'm saying? Like, and another thing is like, I'm going to show you that it works.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to believe me? Put your gloves on. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Like literally I do. And I do that. And I'll teach something and then I'll like tomorrow night, I'm definitely sparring. And I'll put my stuff on and I'll just work on like whatever I'm showing, like that inside kick the entire time. I'll just inside kick people the whole time. Just so you know, like, hey, that inside kick is pretty sick.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way.
Of course. Yeah.
You love sparring now more than when before.
My God, I used to hate sparring.
Yeah.
Well, because I always thought no one told me. I didn't have any like, I had a coach that like didn't know what I was doing outside. So like every time I sparred, I thought it was like a fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? My sparring was like, and I was like getting more hurt sparring.
And now you think of it as what? What should it be?
Yeah, I'm like having fun.
Just fun.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I still want to hurt.
You could do
people.
like more than 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, I could do. I do 10 rounds. Tomorrow night I'm doing 10 rounds, but not all 5-minute rounds. I'll do like 5 3-minute rounds and then like 3 5-minute rounds and maybe like 1 or 2 2-minute rounds, but all back to back. It's not like I'm resting in between.
Yeah, but just much more relaxed.
It's so much more relaxed. Yeah, and I can have fun. And like a lot of the guys, they kind of like, I'm in their head, so they're not trying to kill me because they're like, oh, well, if I go hard against them,
they don't.
And then
fuck me up.
Also, I'd imagine when you're fighting, you probably are like, well, I need good sparring partners. I need spar just the best guys.
Yes.
Where I think you get a lot better, and I always say this in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, like you don't get better at jiu-jitsu by going with Gordon Ryan. You get better at going with like, maybe you get a little tougher, maybe better defending, but you get better at going with a guy who's a little worse than you, who you could like execute on. But when you're in the heat of it, like when I was wrestling, I remember like living at the Olympic Training Center, I wrestled like Steve Mocco every day.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't help you. Like then
and then MMA sparring, you're only doing like 3 or 4 rounds of sparring. So it's like
3 rounds,
you don't get like in jiu-jitsu, you might do like, 7, 8 rounds. So you get, and there's a lot of people on the mat, but for sparring.
But now you figured, now you get better because you're working with, terrible guys and good guys and average guys, right?
Yeah, my last 2 fights, it was like my main sparring partners were Weidman and like Randy Brown.
That's tough.
Yeah.
It sucked.
It's tough.
And you guys are all competing,
Yeah. Like Weidman was like, I'm fighting a, tough wrestler lefty. And like, all right.
Yeah.
Trying to kill me.
Yeah.
But you can't like develop new skills when you're going with someone who's like your equal.
Tough. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's what sucks about training at these big gyms. Because like no one's really looking out for you at these, when I was with the Black Zillions. Don't get me wrong, I love it. And Henry, I talk to Henry, probably 4 times a week. I'm always talking with him. But like, no one's looking after you. And like these guys have the same goal as you. So sparring there, it's like, man, I got hurt way more training in the Black Zillions than I did during any fights,
Right.
Yeah, that's why I always think we were talking about it over the weekend about like having like, if you have like one good, like I have Sajara, if you have like one good training partner that you're like, especially if you're like friends with and you guys just help you and you have to, you both have to be good and there's no ego and you both help each other and learn like that. There's a couple, like we were saying, Gilbert Burns and Vicente Luque, they kind of have that, or like Marab and Aljo.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's more beneficial than like a big team with like
I agree.
so many people.
Yeah. Gilbert and Vicente were my 2 main training partners when I was down there. I'm still, pretty close with them. I talk to them all the time. I always wish them luck before their fights and after their fights. But those guys, it was like me, Gilbert, Vicente, and Camaro. That was the crew down there.
Yeah.
And then like people would come and go, and it's like,
Yeah.
now these guys are like the best guys in the world, and here I am, fucking not doing it anymore.
Well, I mean, they're a little younger, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of times with UFC, it's a lot of it's timing. Like,
100%.
do you feel like maybe you were like, you wish you were in it a little bit later? I mean, everything worked out good, but now it's getting super popular, and I'm like, even like I'm like a couple years like later than you, but then I look at it now, I'm like, man, now they promote every girl, not just the champ. I'm like, when I was in it, they only promoted the champ, and it's like,
oh, see, I thought you were gonna say, don't you wish you were in it a little earlier? Like if you were in the UFC in 2006, when like Josh Koscheck was going, like Josh Koscheck was like a perennial power, like you would have been the champ.
Yeah.
Well,
if you go back far enough,
if you go back far enough, it's almost better. But I guess like, it's not like a real sport then, but then like you could be a wrestler.
Yeah, but none of those guys like have money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like Chuck Liddell probably, there's some guys, but but I know what you're saying. But if you go back far enough, then it's like, oh, just with your skills, then you're gonna be,
My biggest problem with the UFC was I was like, I was in my early 30s when in the UFC, and like I was just maintaining, trying to stay healthy.
Right.
And these other guys were like getting better, and you know what I'm saying, like.
Because you would get injured in camp.
Yeah, and then I'm always fighting a top 10 guy, and I'm like, I'm getting injured in camp, and I'm just trying to maintain when it's like, if I was happy if I just wasn't hurt.
Right.
And then everyone, I had like 7 surgeries since when I started the UFC. I had like
That's
7.
wild.
That's insane. And you probably could have used other ones that you just didn't get.
100%.
Wow.
Tore my ACL 3 times, 4 major hand surgeries.
It's crazy
neck,
that you had
shoulder.
that you had that many fights with 7. You know what I mean?
7 surgeries.
I always say I had 1 surgery since like training, since doing MMA, like 1. I've only had 1
and that cost
injury.
you like a couple of fights. You would have had 2 or 3 more fights.
Yeah. But luckily, and because that was early on in my career, and I was like, from that moment on, that's why I was like, oh, if I'm not injured, I need to be training and fighting, because at any point you can get an injury and you're like, well, now I'm forced to sit out. Time goes by, you're not making money if that's the only thing you're doing, and people are getting better while you're like trying to recover.
Right.
It sucks.
Yeah, I had like a 15-year career, and I only
15 years.
Yeah, 2007 is when I started.
Wow.
And I only have 17 fights. Like a fight surgery.
17 fights. That's what you have.
17, yeah. 14 and 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had like 6 before the UFC?
7.
7.
Yeah. I had 10 fights in the UFC.
10 in the UFC.
I mean, that's a lot though, still.
I know, but not really.
Yeah,
Like Chris Wade, I've been like, I started
That's
like 5
crazy.
years before Wade. Wade's got
Right.
like 28 fights.
Well, I feel like most
Well,
of them are the
tournaments a
last
little
2
bit, right?
years.
Yeah.
I feel like
right, yeah.
since PFL, because
Yeah.
doing the tournament, he's like racked up a whole bunch of fights
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that too, because we fought like before he did the last tournament, me and him were fighting in camp the same time. And then I was like, damn, Wade fights more than me. And then a couple months went by later and he had like 2 more fights. And I was like, I think I fight a lot, but because of that tournament, he fights a lot.
He's
Yeah.
fighting next week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, he's had a prolonged career because
In
of that.
PFL.
But it's kind of like your gym, Long Island MMA. There was a period where for a small gym, you had how many guys in the UFC?
It was insane.
Like a lot of guys. You think you think that'll come back?
Yeah, this
next crop?
This next crop is like we're right there. Like within the next.
And these are
4 or
all
5
homegrown.
years,
They're not college wrestlers. They're all homegrown.
Yeah, not one college wrestler.
That's what I mean. Like if you're a college wrestler, it's like
it's cheating. Yeah.
In the beginning, it's a little cheating.
Yeah, no. Well, I think
these are homegrown.
I think within the next 5 years, we're gonna have like some real contenders.
How important is that to you?
You know what? I like it. It's like, it lets me feel like
You're still in it.
Yeah, I'm still there, and I'm seeing it. I like a lot of the guys take a lot of the stuff that I'm showing. Like you can see my style in a lot of their game, which is fun, and it's good. I'm not the head guy, I just, I like to, they probably respect me the most, but like, Greg puts a lot of work in. Brian puts a lot of work in. Like, so like we have a full staff of people that could, that could be there. Cause I don't have enough time to freaking, to get and there's no money in training these guys,
right. But I mean, you run also like you run the most successful gym on Long Island.
Yeah, I think so.
But eventually you'll have the fighters again too.
Probably in all of New York, probably.
Well, that's that's kind of goes without saying. If you're the most on Long Island, then you're the most in New York. It's not like one in Syracuse is better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then the other side of that is it's not just like, UFC gym, you have legit fighters.
Yeah, 100%.
And historically, like there was lots.
Yeah.
But now it's more like a
but now we have
it just goes in cycles.
Just Boom, Kelleher and and Caitlin are like the only people that are still in the UFC.
But it was crazy when I first moved here, how many guys,
my God,
like that
insane.
Pro class with Laura was down here.
And then a lot of the guys from Sarah's gym would come
down.
Yeah,
Randy Brown and Gregor.
Brown, Costa Philippou.
So many guys.
Dennis.
Yeah. It was really crazy. So that's a lot of fight talk.
Yeah, but it's good. It's so weird though. I was thinking about this earlier today. It's so weird how like we're like both in the UFC, but I only know you through Kyle, and like it's such a small world. How like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kyle, like, I mean, you fought, but it wasn't like he was your friend from fighting, really.
No, he was my friend from
partying.
My friend Cliff. We would party. We used to go on vacation together.
Yeah.
We met on vacation together, and we would only hang out when we go on vacation together.
Yeah. And then it's such a small world.
Boys.
Then I ended up like me and him ended up dating. We became friends. We're both in the UFC. It was just weird.
Yeah,
I remember when we first started talking, I like told him, I was like, I'm talking. Do you ever hear Blonde Fighter?
Because it was before. Yeah, it was like.
And then you came to the gym the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. Kyle was like, had connections to like at the time to like all the biggest UFC fighters. Mm-hmm. They all like would pay him to come and train with him, like Rashad, Koscheck, like Matt Brown.
Every time we go somewhere, we're always like, even like Zane laughs too and says it. We're always like, oh my, everyone knows Kyle.
I'm like I'm the most famous, not famous person.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but I think it's just from wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then wrestling, all those people went into MMA all over the country.
That era was like your era, like the guys, like your class, wrestling class, like around those 4 years, or like was like the first real crop of like real MMA fighters, or like wrestlers, like established wrestlers that were like really successful in the UFC. Yeah. Because like, you know what I'm saying, they were able to like knock people out. They like that was like the first set of people that could do it all. Mm-hmm. Whereas like before that, it was just wrestlers. Like, you just like
they never
hold them down. But now like all of the guys that were knocking people, like Rashad was knocking people out, Koscheck was knocking, Johnny Hendricks. All, these guys were all like real fucking fighters. Weidman. They were
Yeah,
like, you know,
definitely.
like around our age was like the first crop that was like the real deal.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was like, you know, Kevin Randleman, like those type
Right,
of guys.
right,
you know, like,
right. That's a different sport.
It was.
That was more like
It
wrestler
was.
versus
Yeah.
kickboxer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
More like super fight type of
Yeah.
like kind
more
of freak
just
show
freak
thing.
show stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like if you watch something like that, it doesn't even look like MMA.
Yeah, no, because it was literally like one different. It was the whole concept was putting different styles against each other. Now it's like, oh no, they're doing MMA.
Yeah.
Right, right. And like now, I don't even think of when you think of wrestling. If you were someone to say like wrestling, don't you just picture grappling now, or do you think of like back points? Like holding someone in a tilt.
Grappling.
You just think of grappling,
yeah,
like if you get someone on their back and they roll across and you try to grab their neck.
You're like good wrestling, even though like if you're someone you're watching
100%.
people
Like,
spar and they do like a crazy scramble and they're just moving around, going from chokes to this. You're like good wrestling,
That's
but
good
really
wrestling,
it's
good wrestling.
It's grappling.
But like wrestling is like get the wrist, put him on his back, tilt him, hold him.
Yeah,
but like when
100%.
I think of wrestling now, I think of it as like grappling.
Yeah, because like I'd say 70% of wrestling, like the moves in wrestling, don't even work in MMA.
They don't even work at all because most of it's like grabbing off the wrist, the collar.
or just like holding, gluing your hip. You know what I mean? Like low singles aren't gonna
Right.
work.
Swing singles. Yeah. But yeah, because like you're like one of the best wrestlers in the UFC in your division, and you're like average wrestler.
Average. I was above average,
But you're
like,
grappling.
But I wasn't like. I definitely wasn't like any all American. Nothing along those lines.
But your grappling was then you could beat like amazing wrestlers. So I don't think of it as wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
I just think of it as grappling.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
like even like if you just wrestle someone like, you know, like Gordon Ryan, like you've wrestled him. Like,
It's literally cliff.
can't really take him down.
Yeah, awkward.
Like they know how to they're just weird,
He's a
balanced.
grappler,
Just grappling. That's how I think of it.
Right.
So then you own 2 Kava bars.
Yes.
How do you just when you think of kratom or Kava, like people I love that stuff too.
Yeah.
How do you describe kratom?
It's like
Describe
the biggest
it to
like
me.
little if you know you know.
Gregor says it's the best. He goes, you know, picture being around someone that you hate and you can't stand being around. If you take kratom, you actually don't mind being around. It's like
Gregor got that from me. I say it makes the intolerable tolerable.
Yeah,
that's how I describe it.
100%. I still laugh about that because 100%. So I got when I was living in Florida, I got introduced my buddy Rustin, who's like always like a little bit ahead of everybody else and stuff. He's like, yo, you got to stop at this place and you got to stop at this Kava bar and get this thing. It was a Kava and kratom drink mixed. I never heard of Kava, never heard of kratom. I didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about. And I went there and I tried the stuff. It tastes like shit. And I got sick because I probably took too much that my wife was obsessed with it.
Right away.
And my wife is like crazy, like neurotic. And my wife was like, oh my God, like I'm letting the kids jump in puddles, like which was like you would never think my wife would let them. So I'm like, I must be missing something because I got nauseous. Took it again. I was like, whoa, this stuff is amazing. How is this not in every single bar? And like I did some research, and of course the first page on Google can cause death. Like what?
Oh, I mean, anything can.
I started doing some digging around. I'm like, this stuff is 100% natural. And I didn't know which one I liked because the drink.
And this was 10 years ago, probably, right?
Yeah, 2013.
Which is crazy because even now I feel like there's not a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah,
so 10 years ago, you're way ahead
there's
of.
no Kava bars in New York. And
There's no Kava bars in New York 3 years ago.
No, but
right?
like 5 years ago there was no.
Years.
But either like I was saying, that drink I had, I didn't know which one I liked. I'm like, well, it tasted like Kava, but it had kratom extract. So I knew that taste. I'm like, what? I don't know which one it is that I like, but I fucking love it. So I only would get that Kava and kratom mix. And then I was like, you know what?
And you would only get that in Florida.
In Florida, yeah. But it was literally like I lived like not even 2 blocks from the Kava bar. So I was like, I was a regular in there. They knew me, and that was when I was like still like the man in the UFC. Like those guys loved me in there. And I was like, this place, I have to open one up. So I tried to open one up in 2015 in New York, but I was still fighting the UFC. It was a bad idea,
Just bad timing.
It was just bad timing because I was like, I didn't have anyone to run it at my, I was running the gym. I had a bunch of other stuff. I was kind of living in Florida and New York. I'm like, when I'm done fighting, I'm 100% opening a Kava bar in New York. Like, I have to. Like, I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't. Like, because I know how it helped me. It 100% helped me, like, with the anxiety, like, fight week. I take it, like, it would take all your bad energy and turn it into good energy, like 100%.
I've heard a couple of people say recently, they're like, oh, I like they like the tea, and then they're like, oh, I like to make that and drink it when I'm cutting weight, because
it's an appetite suppressant.
They're like, and it just calms me down. I'm not stressed, and I just kind of get in the zone and like
really
relax.
Who have you heard say that? You know people who
Jill was saying that today.
Oh really?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, she said that when we were at the grand opening.
100%. I took my whole fight week. As soon as I started taking, I'm like, oh my god, like it just makes life so much better. But just like anything else, like, you could abuse it. It could be abused. It's something that that stimulates your I guess your mood. It's a mood enhancer. But obviously everyone's itching for that feeling. So just like alcohol, like, you take too much of it and you freaking. I don't think it has anything really addictive in it that like can harm you. But just like chocolate, you can get addicted to eating chocolate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why
caffeine,
it has a bad
right?
rap. Yeah, that's why it has a bad rap. I think.
You would say it has a bad rep?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely has a bad rap.
So as a owner of these businesses, how much of it is like you have to? It's still like educate the consumer.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest.
Because
thing.
everyone knows, like,
100%.
oh, if I drink a beer, I feel a little different, you know. But like, what the fuck is kratom? Nobody knows what kratom is.
So in Florida, the biggest difference between my Kava bars and the ones that I've been to in Florida, the ones in Florida, like you walk in there, like they're kind of sketchy, and I don't want to be disrespectful to these other Kava bars, but like you walk in and they're like, it's really dark. You be walking there like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's dark. There's like Christmas lights hanging around the bar. It like smells like smoke, and there's like, like weird like posters on the walls that like it just, and then like everyone's dull because in Florida it's the rehab capital of the world.
Right,
that's where all people go for rehab. So it's not that people just looking for something else to get high on, regardless, and that's really what happened. So I'm like, you know what? I'm opening one in New York. I'm putting my name behind it. So I'm making these things a little more classy. And I want people to know that it's not harmful. Yeah. I've been taking it for 15 years. I don't use any other drugs. I don't even smoke weed. I hate but I love the stuff, and it's got way more good than bad.
Right. There's like anti-inflammatory.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, literally, like, if you even have like a little bit of a cold, it boosts your
yeah, like even for
COVID,
when you had COVID or anytime he's sick or is hungover, he's like, all right, I need some.
My wife will swear by it.
Oh yeah.
So I got hooked up with this guy Kelly Dunn. Ironically, our worlds met, and they introduced me, and he owns Urban Ice Botanicals, and he's like one of the biggest. And he made that documentary Leap of Faith. Mm-hmm. He's like one of the biggest advocates of like making kratom like in every house and like making it legal, and he really schooled me and put me in touch with the right people. He's trying to create do this like whole sports nutrition brand, and I just got hooked up with him back in like 2018, and we've been vibing ever since, and I don't even he doesn't pay me. I'm just all about supporting his business, just because, like,
right.
And
you get all your product from him.
I get my product. Right? No, but what I'm saying, like, I definitely I benefit from my relationship with him, but like, he doesn't pay me anything. He's a really good dude, and he educated me so much on kratom and Kava as well.
Right.
I mean, you guys, everyone that doesn't. I'm the only person I think that doesn't love it. Yeah.
She had one bad experience.
I had one bad experience where I took it, like I was starting to get into it, and then I took it one time, and I got nauseous, and I just hate the beat. And then, but everyone says this, they're like, "Oh, if you take too much, you get nauseous." But I think it's kind of like when people have bad experience with edibles,
100%.
they're like, "Oh my god, edibles fucked me up." I'm like, "Well, how much did you take?" And I'm like, "Take a less. And it's fun, but if you take too much, it's like you're stupid. You need to be aware of that, and you need to be aware that you need to build up a tolerance." And I got sick once, and then, but the thing is, like, I smoke weed a lot, so. I think if I didn't smoke weed,
and I don't think you have any anxiety. You're like the least amount of anxiety of anyone I've ever met. Like you're so relaxed that it doesn't matter to you.
She also handles it differently too. Anxiety. It's just
she really does not feel it.
Because I'm the same way. I put so much on my shoulders, and I kind of like it's just dealing with stress differently. Everyone deals with it differently, and I think that's like my wife cannot handle stress. You know what I mean? Like
we always joke around that me and Ryan are the same, and you and Danielle are the same.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I get stressed out for sure.
Yeah.
But you do not get stressed out, and so that almost sometimes stresses me out.
Oh, it does.
How are you not?
And I'm like,
stressed about this?
And then I can see
this is a big deal.
If I'm not stressed about something, and I can see that's getting you more upset, I'm like, should I pretend like I'm stressed so he feels better, but so he's not so stressed?
But that's why you guys get along, and that's why me and my wife get along, because even though if I am stressed about something, I act like I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to I know.
But you get stressed. I've seen you stressed. I've never seen stressed.
No, I get stressed all the time. Of course. Yeah. I just keep piling shit onto my plate. I don't even know why I do it. But a lot of times, I'm just, just the way you handle the stress, and you kind of just put it in the back and hey, maybe if I don't freak out about it, maybe it'll just go away.
Right.
Sometimes it does.
Well, even with the kratom, people that have if they do get stressed or anxiety or just I think that's what it's best for.
It is the best
and people are like,
100%.
what? I'm not taking that. But then if you're like, oh, I'm taking a Xanax,
I don't even drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't drink any alcohol.
You always say if you could never have a sip of alcohol or kratom again,
oh my God,
that you're like, it's not even a question.
Gregor,
who likes alcohol?
Gregor said, I think of alcohol as like an old technology, like a CD. Nobody is listening to CDs anymore. Why are people still drinking alcohol?
But I think that's becoming.
I think of it as like an antiquated thing.
Yeah,
but that's
100%.
becoming
I can't believe
more
it's
and
still
more
a thing.
popular, which I think is perfect timing for the Kava bars, and I think that's gonna
definitely
blow up even more because. I don't know if it's just people that I'm around and because we don't drink as much. And I say we don't drink, but obviously I do drink, but not
very little.
And
very little.
It's not important to me where before it was when I was in camp, I was like, I can't wait till after so we can go out and drink. Yeah. Oh, I wish I could have a drink. And that's to me, I'm like, eh. I mean, I do
if
it.
I have a glass of wine with dinner, maybe occasionally, but
social. I drink strictly social.
But to go out and crush beers, I'm not doing that.
Just social.
Or when we used to go to the beach, we'd be like, oh, we're drinking beers the entire time. And I'm like, oh,
not anymore.
But I'm saying more, it seems like that's becoming more popular even for younger people or they
in
don't
our
feel
circle
they have
for
to do
sure.
it.
But I would think that eventually it'll be once people you're at the infancy of kratom. Nobody even knows
because
what it is.
weed's
At
just
some
becoming
point,
normal.
as popular as it is for you and you're doing really well, at some point it's going to be
insane
100,000 times.
And I 100% agree with it because I really
because if you ask 5 people, if you ask our neighbors, they don't know what it is.
No. And then that's what sucks though too, because it's oh, you look and he's into this kratom bar, and they Google it, and it's oh my God, people die from that.
Yeah,
and it's oh, and they have to backtrack. It just sucks.
Those people be like, they die from my mom. I'm not doing that, and then they're pounding
Eating
vodka.
sugar and
people use that. People use that to get off drugs. People, that's those type of people. But it does. People do use it to get off drugs. That's one of the benefits.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? It's better if they do drugs?
Yeah, right? It's all natural. It's there's so many good things about it. Just because people use it to get off drugs, I don't use it to get off drugs. Yeah. I do it because I really genuinely like the way it makes me feel.
Gregor says if USADA made kratom, put USADA, put it on, kratom's on the USADA list. A lot of things are banned substances. He said, I'd just stop fighting.
Yeah.
He's like, I wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just done fighting.
Yeah.
And I battle myself.
That's why he won't fight in Canada. He's like, if I can't bring it to Canada. So when they used to travel, well, I'm not fighting.
Well, it's funny because when you first started taking, sometimes even if we're around people, I'm like, well, don't pull that was years ago when you were you guys were the only people I knew that knew about it, And if you pulled it out in front of people, I was like, wait, don't do that in front of them because they're going to think you're doing like some type of drugs. And then you'd be like, well, I'm not. It's like natural stuff. You can buy it you could buy it online. It's legal. And then I'm like, yeah, but like people are just so.
I don't understand. I actually get embarrassed. Like if I'll take that, I put it on my tongue, people are like, oh, what is he doing?
Yeah.
But like, I also don't care.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's so fucking messy.
Well, it's only messy for
those things I just gave you.
No, not these, but it's just so sticky.
Well, most people do capsules.
Why is that?
Most people do the capsules, and then that's not messy.
Yeah,
like even
you
the bag,
just dry
sticks
scoop
to
it.
the bag.
You dry scoop it. I do like on my Instagram.
I'm a dry scooper.
Yeah.
I do it on my Instagram. Like, oh, Kyle is here, and it's like kratom stains all over the house.
The countertop.
Yeah, it'd be like on the countertops, like completely, and there's like green dust. All of his shirts have a green stain on. Like he needs a bib. But
I'll tell you what. No, I don't even. I mean, I still take that every day, but I take those 3X shots.
Those are good. Yeah,
the CBD.
Those are good.
I could do like the shots.
Those are good
more.
for like if you're doing things. Like I could take that and actually train.
Yeah, like a daytime.
I could do jujitsu after that.
I would definitely.
But like the powder is more like when you're at home, right? Chilling.
Yeah,
or it was social, like if we're all hanging out.
Yeah.
But the 3X, I could do that. Then I would like to teach wrestling, and then I'm like the best teacher ever.
Yep. 100%.
Like I'm so engaged.
Yeah.
I remember one time.
The funniest story ever is.
Wait, we were at like I think you were fighting in Brooklyn. I think it was like a fight.
It was that.
And so we were at the fights and
no, it was in Manhattan. It was at
okay, whatever. Yeah. We were at a UFC fight watching, and Kyle's sitting next to this one guy, and Kyle's talking to him the whole night. Meanwhile, Kyle knows the guy for years.
UFC fighter.
Yeah, UFC fighter from Long Island. So Kyle knows him for years, sees him all the time at the gym. And Kyle's like, if you don't know him, he's not like talking to you, not because he doesn't like you. He's just shy, so everyone thinks he's
high fiving.
He's like high fiving the guy. It doesn't matter. It's not like,
it's nothing bad.
No,
it's nothing bad.
It's bad. It's only bad for you because you're like being a weirdo.
Yeah, it's nothing bad. I like him, but I just it was Brian Kelleher.
Oh yeah,
and we were bonding all night and we were talking and like hanging out, high fiving, hugging, boom, this that.
Yeah, and the whole day I'm like, you've never talked to him. Not that you don't like him, you just never talk.
Like in the gym, like he probably would.
No. So then the next week, Tuesday comes wrong. Kyle's in the gym. Brian walks by. I was like, hey Kyle, what's up? Kyle's like, what's up? And walks away because he's not on kratom, so he's not like super friendly anymore.
But he's such a nice guy, and it was like a good conversation. But I'm fucked up. I have like social anxiety.
Yeah.
Like I don't like people think that because the people who know me well are like,
100%.
what are you talking about? You're the most friendliest person. You're so outgoing. You're so friendly. Like even when I was single, I'd be like, oh, you get every girl. Like you're not social anxiety. I'd be like. No, I am. Right. It's just certain people I'm not. But I have horrible social anxiety.
Yeah.
100%.
Like people always be like, you're an asshole. I'm like, no, I'm shy. I'm very shy.
And because you're big and you're kind of like you're intimidating to.
You have like a deep voice.
No, you're big. You're manly looking, and like so people immediately they see that you're not friendly. They just assume that you're a dick. Like immediately, like because me like I'm a little goofier looking. Like so like I'm not like unapproachable. Like for you, like you walk in, you're like a block shoulders and stuff. And people are like, oh man, that guy Kyle's a dick because like he does, because you're not like super friendly.
Yeah, you look intimidating and then you don't talk, so it's like, you know what I mean?
That sucks because I'm just shy.
I had to like really choose that, like how I was going to deliver that one.
He's probably going to be talking about it all night.
Brian called me an asshole.
Brian thinks I'm an asshole. See?
No, but it's funny because you and Michelino were the same, are kind of the same way.
Yeah.
And you guys were
He's big in kratom too.
And he loves it.
Yeah.
But Brian's like not scary looking, but he doesn't talk to anyone. Like he'll come in and he like won't look at anyone in the eye. Like he's different, like unapproachable. But like people just assume that he's a dick, but he's just like really fucking socially.
It's really not fair to people that are like shy because it's like the same thing with girls are like, oh, she's a bitch or she, it's like no, I'm just like. Kind of uncomfortable and nervous. You should be nicer to me.
Larry David talks about this and he calls it shy asshole confusion.
Yeah.
You have shy asshole. No, I'm not an asshole. I'm shy.
Right.
Like there's a difference between being like deliberate asshole,
you're right,
or just being
100%.
I'm a little shy.
Yeah.
So
but
I
like I'm
think-
not shy. Like if I want to like go up to someone and talk to them, I'm super good
You're
at
not
that.
getting like anxiety where
But
you're like, I can't go in there.
I don't
and do
like
this.
small talk.
Right, yeah, you're not. You're that's what it is. Because it's not like you're not intimidated to talk to me. You just like don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't fake it.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
You're
there's
not
no
talking
faking.
about the
There's
weather.
there's no faking.
Yeah.
No, I'm not good at small talk.
Yeah,
But then I think the kratom helps with that.
Oh my
it
god,
really
that makes
does.
me like a normal person.
It really does, man. I've learned, I've been taking it for like 10 years now, and it's like I have to take it before I do anything.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like now, it's like it used to be like, oh, I'll take it like on occasions. Now I'm like, before I do anything, I take it.
Sometimes before we go some places where I'm like, did you take your kratom?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. And she's like, I don't need it. I'm like, I know, but it'll just be a lot better.
Or if we're like driving somewhere, I'm like driving, I'm like all the way to like on the southern state, going like almost to Jersey. I'm like, fuck, forgot kratom. Turn around.
I would definitely
Go,
turn
yeah.
around.
You know how many times
Yeah.
like I picked him up and we go somewhere like I'm packing and he's like, did you pack my kratom? Did you pack my kratom? Did you pack my? Because I'm like, yeah. Because it's not like alcohol or something else that you can pick up on the way all the
Well, you
time.
can.
You can, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
For one.
But you don't
That-
want to have
that
to look
OPMS
for it.
Stuff is pretty good, but it's like too strong for me. You know what I don't like?
Where do
about
you get that?
You get it like
anywhere?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's like $20 for a little bottle.
Oh,
But-
right.
But the problem with that stuff is like after like 2 hours or so, like I like have a come down from it. You know, like if I take the stuff like any of those shots, like there's like after 2 hours it just kind of wears away. But if I take that stuff, where it's like I feel great for 2
Right.
hours, and then after 2 hours I'm like,
You're like wiped out.
yeah, like wanting to go
Really?
lay down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's such a good business for you because it's already doing good.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
it's like what the
Yeah.
UFC was in 2004.
Yeah, right.
You know what I
right,
mean?
100%.
Nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And that's always like the biggest thing with businesses is getting in and like
Yeah.
early on.
Right,
And I think too,
right,
getting in
right.
early because how many times is there something where imagine if you didn't start it and then in like 4 years they're like Kava bars all over, then you try to get into it and then you're like,
yeah.
I knew it was like that's
Yeah.
always like
Well,
kind of the
That's
thing.
why I said I have to open one, and that's why like in my other place in Patchogue, I'm not like killing it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh my god, like I'm making so much money, I'm gonna open 1 million of these things. But like I know that if I just keep opening
It's
these things,
educating the
then,
consumers.
and I'll like then I'll be like
You'll be set up when it like yeah.
100%.
yeah.
100%.
And I just know that people are like, oh, I got to open, like, oh, I see with all the, like, that's because I believe in the product, so I know someone else will be like, I love this product. This loser that I went to high school with came in to, and it was a customer who was buying every day, and he's a little
you told me this.
dork. Yeah, he's such a dork that he would like ask all my employees like every day would like ask how do you brew this, how much do you do this, like, and just to get a little bit of information every single day.
Uh-huh.
And then next thing I know, I get a call from because I'm the supplier for Lalo and Urban Ice in New York. So I get a call like, hey, like, do you know this guy? He's ordering like $3,000 worth of kratom and Kava. I'm like, what? I call the guy. I'm like, you open a Kava? He's like, oh, no. A month later, he opens a Kava.
Why would he say no? Like,
No, he's like, oh, I was just looking. I was just getting prices. I was considering opening one, and then I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. And
Where
I
do
just,
you
like,
open it?
I didn't make a big deal.
Yeah.
And like poor Jeff.
Oh my god.
I didn't make a big deal. I was like, whatever. I just stopped answering him back, and then like less than a month later, grand opening for this Kava bar. He had and he hired a girl that used to work for me.
Really?
He's a freaking dork. Like,
It's fine if you do it on your own,
Yeah.
but like coming in.
yeah,
and
like you can't
stealing-
prevent him from doing
yeah,
it.
no, I don't
but-
even care. I wouldn't
Yeah.
care if someone.
Because at the end of the day, you kind of almost want
It's actually
more.
probably better.
opens,
I
it just
do
gets
want more. I
bit-
do want more. It was just the way he went about it.
Yeah, and then you
He's
know him
such
too.
a dork, man. I would never fucking be friends with that kid again.
Yeah,
That's so fucking crazy.
what a loser.
Yeah, dork.
Definitely a cool business though. Yeah, cool.
And it's like it's cool for like a different thing because like everyone always like wants to hang out at like a coffee shop, but like all right, it's kind of like gives you something to do and a place to go and
It's
hang
fresh
out.
too.
Yeah,
It's
totally
new.
fresh,
Yeah.
It's fresh.
And all of my places are like classy.
Yeah.
you
Well, it's
walk
got a
in-
vibe.
Yeah,
A vibe.
it's like you come in there and it's like you're not getting like at this place I would go to in Florida, it was like in a styrofoam cup.
Well, it's a mix between like a coffee shop, an acai bar, and a bar. Yeah. You know, like a lounge type of thing. So it's like a mix. And all those places, like when you go into like the new like acai places, you go and you're like, oh, this is cool. It's kind of like that, but like elevated with like a lounge vibe.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's just cool to hang.
And just the aesthetics of anything makes it so like that's what makes a business, 100%. Right? If it's comfortable and aesthetic.
And then like people, it just like, what is it? What are you serving here? And then when I tell people what I'm doing, they're like, wait, hold on, what? And you don't serve food, you don't serve booze, you don't serve like, what do you serve? I'm like, well, sit down.
Yeah.
And then you kind of give them the pitch, and then.
But like if you walk into a restaurant, they can have the best food in the world, but if they have like plastic table and shitty fucking plates. And,
but also if it's the best food in the world, like it sells itself.
I don't know though. Like I think it still needs to have a vibe. It could have a shitty vibe. Like, no, it's take it as it is, but the food's amazing. That's the vibe then. It's like a shitty place. But generally it has to be, any business has to be like comfortable, cool, I think.
Well, no one's going to, like if it's really good food, like no one's going to know that it's really good food because no one's going to give it a shot.
Yeah, most places that do that have been around since for 60 years, and that's their shit.
Yeah, like a cash only like shithole, but it's the best.
Peter Luger's. Yeah, but everyone knows it already, so they can do it, and that's the
but I personally don't think Peter Luger's is anything special. I think it's.
I've literally never been there.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything special either. But
it's like regular steak.
My steak's definitely better. It is.
Terminator.
It's so cool that you were able to like. All like the businesses and stuff you do are things that you really like. Because that's obviously that's the goal for anyone. Oh, do what you like, but it's easier said than done. No, you know what I mean? You 100%. Just kind of like with the fighting, because not everyone loves fighting. Then you open up the gym and then doing this and like everything. Obviously, you do other stuff too.
100%. It's all stuff that I enjoy. Like even with the real estate, I was like, it's like fun. Like you buy a house and like, blah, blah, and then of course, like the worst thing that could happen, I have these loser tenants that like won't pay, which is like you never think like, oh, it's a 3-unit house.
Yeah.
Not, at least what are the chances all three? What are the chances all three of them aren't paying?
Yeah. Oh.
Yep.
How crazy is that a thing? Like if people are listening in like Texas or something, like what does that mean? In New York, you literally have a place with 3 different units, and they don't have to pay rent.
Yeah. And all 3 people
for years.
And all the 3 people that were. Squatting on me are like people that I knew before they
so you try to
but like if you are in Texas and you told someone that, be like, what are you talking about? Just
everyone's like, just kick them out, turn the electricity off or turn the heat off. You're not allowed to.
You should see.
And if their stove stopped working, you have to replace their stove.
I mean, because it's a 3-unit house, I have to supply oil. But they don't pay. I have to give them oil, and then you should have seen this text that this is today. One of my this girl, I'm like, hey, you're 18 days late. You're 18 days late in April. I haven't got paid for January, February, March. She did this ERAP program where it's like the state pays them. She hasn't had to pay rent in like 20 months.
Yeah.
And then the ERAP thing ended March. I still haven't got paid for January, February, and March. But it's definitely not paying for April. I'm like, I haven't got this. But you're also 18 days. She's like, stop harassing me.
Yeah.
You'll get your money. Harassing me is never going to work. I'm going to block your number. like I'm the problem.
Yeah, but that's what everyone says.
You see,
they're like, what do you think she should be thrown? She's a woman. She should be thrown out in the streets.
You see that people are saying stuff like that, like cancel all rent. Like, what are you talking about? These people, someone is fitting that bill.
Right.
Someone's paying that bill.
I've seen like a TikTok
video. I don't understand
video.
how people could think that.
I've seen this TikTok video where this guy owns a bunch of property, and it's him. He videotapes and puts it on of him kicking tenants out.
Not in New York.
And he knows all the comments are like hating on like, how could you? She's a single mother with kids, and he goes and he'll be talking to the kid. And he's like, hey, did you got the eviction notice? You guys are out, and they're like, they're not. They're like,
it's in Vegas, right?
I don't remember exactly where state, but they're telling like the 17-year-old, they're like, it's a 17-year-old. He's like, well, did your mom you have to pay rent? Like that's your mom's fault for being a bad parent doing that. You got to get a job. You got to do something, like
crazy.
And then they're like, you're the asshole, but then you still have to pay their mortgage.
What makes me have to pay for you to live? Like, why should I have to pay? Like, I'm not the one who knocked you up and made you a single mom.
Crazy.
Like, if anything, the the father should pay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's crazy.
Both
what
of
do
the
I owe
parents,
you?
you
I
know?
owe you nothing.
Yeah.
That's such a, I mean, that's a,
Well, they said too in like certain states, they're like, oh, if you've been in a place, I saw one too. This girl owned an Airbnb and she was like young and she did like her first Airbnb and she was excited. And she's like telling everyone, she's like, make sure, depending on what state, that state, it was like 30 days. If someone's in a place, you own it. So what people were doing is going on Airbnb, stay 31 days, and then they're like, just stop paying.
Is that real?
that is real.
No, but
It depends what state. I think that was in like Georgia.
New York, it's 30 days.
So the short-term rental is it falls under the hotel rules where it's like it won't work for that.
Well, like if it's 30 days, you can only do it for 19 days.
Might not be a short.
Yeah, I think 30 days is the number.
So you can't do it Airbnb for like 29 you got to do it for 29 days because then you can kick them out. But if they say
such a weird thing.
Honestly, I don't know the rules.
It's crazy how people know that they make. That's how they live their life.
That's an industry.
Yeah.
No, but think about it. At a hotel, well, I'll just stay at the hotel for 30 days. And but the short-term rentals, it's like.
Yeah.
You like literally like 24 hours you have to be out.
It's so wild.
Wild. But so we'll wrap things up here. But one thing I always think about with you too is like how much you take on. And then I do the same thing. Like and you just take on so many different things and it's almost like you're never satisfied.
Yeah, that's my problem.
But then, like,
Well,
I
don't
always
wanna
struggle
be
with
satisfied.
that, though, because, like, do you describe yourself as happy?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've always
Isn't that a weird thing?
Yeah. I guess I'm happy because I do whatever I want. Like, I really do whatever I want. Like, maybe, like, but what is happy?
But never
What is
satisfied.
happy?
Like,
Yeah, never satisfied.
like, the reason I think me and you are so close and get along so well is that, like, when you're, like, in South Florida on the boat, you look at the houses and you're like, no, it's such a beautiful house. You're like, what the fuck? How come I can't have that house?
And I'm like, and that guy's
and you
35,
can't enjoy
I'm
it.
38.
And you can't enjoy, like, looking. You feel that way, right?
But then when like if I do have that, and I'm like, oh man, like I can't, like I wish I had this when I was 25. And
Right.
That's definitely a Kyle
So
mentality
why is that?
too.
Why do you think we have that?
I don't know.
It's something I struggle with because I'm like, I'm happy, but I'm never satisfied. I'm always like, fuck, I should be doing this and this and this. And like,
I don't know. Either.
It's like a good, and I mean, it's like bad because sometimes it's like, all right, just relax, like enjoy it. But then it also is a good thing. And like I always tell them, like, that's what I love about you, that you're always like motivated and not just like sitting around, like being like,
like you think about how to improve, how to make more money, how to do like literally all day, every day.
I'm never happy. Right? Like as soon as I'm done with one thing, like if I finish one project, I'm picking two more projects.
And you like when you buy a house, you like this, we're going to close tomorrow. Oh, we have to close this out. Yeah. Like I love all that. And then once it happens, I'm like, we got to get something going.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
But so are you happy or are you?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm definitely
But I think
happy.
staying busy is what makes you happy too.
Because I would say like someone who's like blissfully ignorant, like just like, oh, I work at fucking the gas station.
That's so funny. Like I can't wrap my head around.
There's people like that.
Most people,
tons,
that's what,
and they're happy.
Can't wrap my head around.
And they watch the game.
They go 9 to 5, and like their favorite thing to do is to go to to watch the Yankees every night.
Right.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that.
But those people might you might argue those people are happier.
No, 100%.
Because they work and then they're off for 8 hours and watch TV and
they enjoy their time. Yeah.
I coach both of my daughter and my son in lacrosse and my son wrestling. Like if I can't take on enough shit, I'm like, I'll be the coach. Like,
it's so funny when you're like, I have to coach this. I'm like, how the fuck do you have time to coach like all? You're like away for lacrosse tournaments, and I'm like, you coach 3 different like sports.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But you like that? That's got to be fun. Though,
I do like
coaching
it.
your kids.
And honestly, and like the one thing it's like upsetting is how fast they freaking grow, man. My daughter's like 12. She's gonna be 13 in a couple months.
That's wild.
I can see it.
She's
now,
like grown up. Like I just saw her the other night.
Someone will say something and like me and her look at each other and we'll like roll our eyes like, oh my god, they're so annoying. Yeah, she's so funny. I always said, even like now she's like getting older and I can tell, but even before I'm like, when she was super young, I was like, oh, Riley's like my friend.
Like you guys
She gets
vibe,
it.
like a friend.
Yeah.
She's vibing.
She gets it.
Yeah. Yeah, but back to what you were saying before, it's like I'm constantly trying to like stimulate myself. I need to be stimulated at all times. Like I need something that like to entertain.
And if you're not, do you get depressed?
Yeah, but there almost isn't not like
You don't allow that to happen.
I haven't let it happen since I stopped fighting. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do when I'm done fighting? Like, I started doing this funding company. I was in real estate. Like, I picked up so many different jobs. I'm doing stunts in TV shows. Like, I'm constantly doing something.
I remember recently or whatever. I was like asking. I was like, oh, what are you guys doing now? You're like, she's like, well, Ryan's shooting a movie until like 3 a.m. I'm like, of course, like just something so random.
I get hit up like once a month to do something.
Yeah,
like that often.
Yeah, I don't do it once a month because it's like. It's like a full day. It's like a 16-hour day. So like very rarely can I just stop everything I have going down.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good pay. It's like $1,000 a day. But like I'm losing money for me to do it. But like very rarely can I be like, all right, drop everything I'm doing, go into the city for freaking from like 6 in the morning to like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how freaking long the days are.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting around. And like the cool thing is like you get to hang out and like,
it's a cool experience, but you're like, all right.
I mean, it's like I thought that was something. Like when I was done fighting, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna be a stunt guy.
Yeah.
Like I know people, a lot of guys in the industry, that's what they do. I'm like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll get into SAG. I'll be a stuntman. And then like picked up like 7 other jobs. Like, I don't have time to do that.
Well, that's a good problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. So Island Kava.
Yep.
Endless Summer.
Yep.
Long Island MMA. We follow all those. Instagram.
We'll tag everything.
Long Island MMA isolate two of them. Yeah.
But so thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
I loved it. It was great.
You have fun?
Good time. Yeah, good time. Right. I'm all on kratom, so I'm ready to go.
Otherwise, you couldn't tolerate us.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe.
Bye.
Bye, guys.